I'll call the meeting to order and welcome everyone to the regular meeting for the the Missoula County Public Schools School Board meeting. And we'll do roll call. I know Michael Beers and Jennifer Newbold and Mike Smith were not able to attend, but I think all other trustees are present. And so, do you have that, Lenora? Okay. And so now we move on to item number 2, which is the Pledge of Allegiance. And if we can stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And so we move on to item number 3 on the agenda, which is to review, possibly revise, or otherwise approve the agenda. Is there any request to change the order of the agenda? We try not to do that in order to give adequate public notice to the order of our meetings, but sometimes there's an urgent reason to change. But seeing no requests around the table, then it's okay to go forward with the agenda as it stands. I'm seeing only head shaking yes and no heads shaking no, so we'll go forward. So the first item is to approve the Board of Trustees regular meeting minutes from October 10th, 2017. Is there a motion to approve those meeting minutes? Moved by Trustee Lorenzen. Is there a second? Seconded by Trustee Bregstad. Although, or I should ask, is there any correction or additions to those minutes? Seeing none, then we have a seconded motion. So all trustees in favor of approving the regular meeting minutes from October 10th, please indicate by raising your hand. And that is unanimous as to all trustees present. And then we move on to the second meeting in October, the minutes from the October 24th meeting. Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes that anyone caught? Seeing none, then is there a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting on October 24th? Moved by Trustee Bregstad and seconded by Trustee Kendall. All those in favor of approving the October 24th regular meeting minutes, please indicate by raising your hand. And that's unanimous as to all trustees present. Now we move to item number 5A, which is public comment from the audience on non-agenda items. This is the time where if it's not on our agenda, and we'll be talking about it more at length, if there's anything that anyone wants to bring to the board's attention that falls under the jurisdiction of the school district, we love to hear from you. And because it's not on the agenda and therefore we haven't given notice to the public that the trustees will be discussing any of the items, we won't discuss them. But if it's something that we need further discussion, it can be added as an agenda item later. So if there's any items that you'd like to discuss, and if it's on the agenda, then now is not the time to discuss it. It's right. It's we try to keep them connected up to when the trustees are also discussing issues. And so it could be something that we might be discussing in the future or have discussed in the past. And if you have an unusual name, first or last, can you spell it? And if you represent an organization, can you identify it? And since we're recording this through MCAT, if you can turn on the microphone at the podium. Thanks.
Good evening, school board members. My name is Jenny Dixon, D-I-X-O-N, and I am a chapter leader of Start School Later Montana. I noticed it's a non-agenda item, that in your packet was some comment that really just actually included a petition that was initiated by Start School Later some months ago relative to the efforts to look at Missoula County Public Schools, high school in particular, and the urban area, starting at a healthy school start time of 8:30 or later. And while this is not on the agenda this evening, I do hope it will be on the agenda for this board very soon, and I know that a lot of people in the community are very excited to see this come forward as a way to help our children who are in high school, who are struggling, who are in crisis, who are not doing well in school, have trouble, who are having trouble at home. I just went to a really excellent suicide prevention training this morning called QPR, and our kids need our help, and I know that you guys are committed to this, and I really appreciate all the work that you've done so far. We met at the meeting in May, and I know there was unanimous support to investigate moving this initiative forward. Right now, the petition that's really kind of been a sleeper, I haven't been putting it out there, but we have 238 signatures, plus a lot of great comment from people who say, I need more sleep. And a lot of people will ask, what shouldn't we get them prepared for the work world where school, where work starts at 8 o'clock, but these are not adults. These are kids who need more sleep. So thank you so much for keeping this on the forefront. I want to encourage you to continue to do so and stay engaged with the community on this and know that it's really important to a lot of people. Thank you so much.
Is there any other public comment on non-agenda items? Seeing none, then we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is 6A, student trustee reports. And so we want to just start down the table. Left to right or right to left? I'll let you guys choose.
Okay. Hi, good evening. Although the time change has moved an hour backward, Sentinel has continued to push forward. The Sentinel volleyball team competed in the state tournament last weekend. The Spartans won the state title for a second year in a row, beating Billings Senior. Congratulations to the team, and good luck next year. On November 3rd, the Sentinel football team won against Big Sky to advance to the semifinals for the first time since 1990. They ended their run for the season against Billings Senior last Friday, but we are all so proud of the team and all it has accomplished this year, and we'll be looking forward to what they can do next season. Special Olympics had state games in Helena last weekend. There are two teams split between Big Sky and Sentinel. The Rock Beetles took first, and the Spiegels, or the Spartan Eagles, took third. Congratulations to our Special Olympic athletes, Connor Combo, Liam McClare-Jones, Moses Yellowrobe, Jessica Peterson, Kaylor Feely, Kyla Houston, and Carl Sylvia. Several Spartan seniors signed on to play collegiate sports. Sam Beagley will play basketball for Carroll College next year. Drew Leonard will play baseball for the University of Sioux Falls. Kylie Froelich and Jordan Schwain will play basketball at the University of Montana. And lastly, Serena Moreno and Elsa Godwin will play volleyball for the University of Montana. Sentinel is proud to send off all these players next year as they continue their Spartan excellence. Speech and debate is off to a strong start this season. There are approximately 70 students on the team, which is the largest turnout in several years. The team competed in Butte on October 27th and 28th, where they took 6th place. On November 4th, the team traveled to the Kalispell kickoff meet and took 3rd place. On November 10th and 11th, the team went to Bozeman, where they placed 5th overall, which is an amazing accomplishment because it was the biggest tournament of the year with all AA schools and some ABC schools competing as well. Zach Tenera took 5th place in legislative debate, Chris Malcolmson took 3rd in legislative debate, and Maddie Braun took 2nd in legislative debate. Jared Rosenquist and Peyton Riska took 7th in duo interpretation, Maeve Lange took 6th in original oratory, and lastly, Olivia Jenkinson took 1st place in memorized public address. There are several students that place in the top 8 each weekend. The Japan Club has made a safe return from their recent trip to Kumamoto in Tokyo. One member, Lindsay Rusa, is staying in Japan and will attend Kaishin High School for a 6-month exchange before returning to Missoula. All of Sentinel wishes her luck as the first Sentinel student to experience this. The Missoula robotics team competed in the Robot Rewind competition in Spokane last weekend and will be continuing to work in the shop every week. Sentinel's Model United Nation teams will compete next Monday and Tuesday at the University of Montana. Sentinel Student Government, with the volunteer help of our school's Key Club chapter, held the Fireside Dance on Saturday, November 4th, with a great turnout. Our NHS chapter participated in the first community service event of the season. Members went around to the surrounding neighborhoods and raked up leaves. The Special Education Department will be hosting the 23rd Anniversary Craft Fair on November 25th at Sentinel High School, so be sure to come down and check out all the different items that will be available. The Sentinel Brain Bowl team competed all day today in Frenchtown. Sentinel DECA is having a food drive in which all donations will go to the Families Resource Center. Also this week, DECA members will be signing up for their state competitive events. The AA Choir Festival is occurring this Monday and Tuesday at Sentinel. This is an opportunity for the choirs from Sentinel, Big Sky, Hellgate, and Flathead to hear and learn from each other, as well as from a college conductor. Their final performance will be at 7 p.m. on Thursday in the Sentinel Auxiliary Gym. The Sentinel Drama Department will be putting on the fall play Do Not Go Gentle this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. The doors will open at 7 p.m. with the show starting at 7:30. Tickets are $6, so come watch some amazing talent and support all of our performers this week. There's so much activity going on at Sentinel, so be sure to check out all the amazing events that our school will be hosting this month. Thank you.
Welcome back, Gabby.
Here I am. My representative, our Vice President, Dylan Dayshaw, is not here due to the AA Choir Festival that you were talking about. Hellgate's 60-person choir is participating in the AA Choir Festival with Flathead, Sentinel, and Big Sky. Also, Hellgate has just also had a busy month with new construction updates and lockers being taken away, but it's okay. Everything's going great. Boys soccer winning state with 5 boys getting all-state honors. Women's soccer taking 5th in state with first girl getting all-state honors. Cross-country women took 2nd at state. Men, unfortunately, did not place. Hellgate Speech and Debate team took 3rd at their kickoff meet in Butte. The first time Hellgate has placed in the top 3 in over 20 years with Glacier, Flathead, and Bozeman present. 13 Hellgate Choir members were chosen to participate in the All-Northwest more than the last 5 years. I guess that's a sentence, Dylan. Okay, great. I'm just reading his report. This is what's happening. He's like, Gabby, I'm going to share this with you. I was like, okay, great. Hellgate Drama Program just finished up All About Eve last weekend. I was actually the head stage manager for that. It was a great time. We're starting to work on Into the Woods this coming month, and auditions will be in December. This is our second musical in over 20 years, so it's going to be a whole school effort with the orchestra and the band and a lot of dancing things going on. So stay tuned for more news about that. Hellgate football team finished up the year with no wins, but still motivated, especially with the large sophomore group that seemed very passionate. Wish them luck, and that concludes Dylan's report.
Yes, hello, my name is Gabe, and I'm here to talk about all the awesome things going on over at Big Sky High School. So I split my report into 4 sections: academics, arts, sports, and other activities. I'll dive into academics. So our first 3 items, things going on in the Health Science Academy over at Big Sky. Health Science Academy seniors will be starting their job shadows later this month, actually next week, or the week after Thanksgiving, excuse me. Students will job shadow at almost 30 different locations, including doctor's offices and other medical providers across Missoula. All freshmen in the Health Science Academy are taking a field trip this week to the forensic science labs at the university and looking at cadavers and things that they have going on over in those labs at the university. All 10th graders in the Health Science Academy are visiting the health science programs at the Missoula College this week. So a lot of exciting things going on in the academy, a lot of exposure to those secondary fields. Our IB sports exercise health science classes went on a field trip last week to health and human performance labs at the University of Montana. A lot of interacting with the university. Our natural resources and conservation class took a field trip on November 8th to the Stitt Ranch near Ovando to do streamside restoration work. This class collected over 1,000 willows for use in the project. This project is done through a partnership with the Blackfoot chapter of Trout Unlimited, and this is the 12th year of that partnership with our natural resources class, so that's been a very exciting thing. It's gone on every year. Big Sky is sending 4 different countries to the Model United Nations Conference next week at the university. They plan to have a strong showing and continue the past successes that Big Sky has had at MUN. The Big Sky High School National Honor Society is putting on the Can the Cats food drive, and we're competing against Sentinel High School. And we're also participating in the Jeans for Troop fundraiser, where seniors in National Honor Society went to over a dozen businesses in Missoula and asked for their participation in this fundraiser, which entailed all employees at a specific business wearing jeans for one day and donating $5 to a specific organization that supports veterans in the community. It's post-secondary month at Big Sky. During college application week, all seniors filled out the Montana University System application. Our senior counselor went into classrooms to discuss post-secondary options and fill out applications with all seniors. Also, many different colleges and military groups have been visiting Big Sky throughout the month to talk to upperclassmen about their plans for after high school. Our speech and debate team recently placed 4th in the AA tournament in Kalispell last weekend. They actually had a strong showing in our 9th graders, so that's an exciting thing to see for the future of our speech and debate team. And finally, to conclude our academic section, we have many Big Sky students that participate in FFA, and the Missoula FFA chapter recently traveled to Indianapolis for FFA Nationals. We had 25 Missoula students on the FFA team, the most represented from Montana, and they received gold, silver, and bronze in several different categories at that competition. So we're very proud of our Big Sky students on the FFA team. In our arts, the Big Sky High School Jazz Band recently traveled to Livingston, Montana, and played in the Livingston Jazz Festival on November 3rd. The Jazz Band received awards for the Best Trombone Section, Best Trumpet Section, and an Outstanding Individual Soloist Award. There were over 10 bands playing at this festival, and we're very proud of our jazz band for competing at that high level. Our Big Sky Drama Department is putting on their annual student-produced cabaret show this week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights. I encourage you guys to go check out the cabaret at Big Sky. It's a very exciting and fun show, and the students are very proud. Like they mentioned, we have around 30 choir students participating in the AA Choir Festival today over at Sentinel, so we wish them luck. Our sports. Winter sports are starting up this Thursday. We have wrestling, swimming, basketball, and speech and debate, and we're very excited to see what our teams can do this winter. Girls soccer had their best season since 2002 and got 5th at state to wrap up our fall sports. And our football team, Big Sky football, recorded their best regular season record at 8-2 ever this year. So that was a very exciting deal for our football team. And other things to note, next week our student government will kick off our 9th grade buddy program. 150 upperclassmen will be trained to check in with specific 9th graders. The purpose of this is to make sure every student at Big Sky feels welcome and proud of our school, and really just connect them to the Big Sky community and make sure that they're squared away to proceed with the rest of high school. Finally, we are going to have a holiday ball. Student Gov is putting on a dance Saturday, December 16th at Big Sky. And I'll conclude my report by saying that Big Sky High School is currently in a good state of community and student belonging. Thank you.
And I don't know if we have the Sealy Swan trustees tonight? Okay. No, that's fine. I know that everyone's on a busy schedule, and as we know, most people who are student trustees have very busy lives and are probably leaving after their reports, but I know Marina stays till the end of the meeting, so thank you, Marina. And thank you to both Gabby and Gabe for being here. Thank you so much.
Coming back, don't worry.
Okay. So we now move on to the RSVP Foster Grandparents Report, their partnership between Missoula Aging Services and Missoula County Public Schools. So I don't know if Colleen just wants to introduce herself or if Hatton wants to introduce Colleen.
Oh, sure. I would be happy to. You have met Colleen Baldwin for years prior to this particular update. I always look forward to it. I'm glad you're here, and it sounds like we get to see photos this year.
Well, I bring with me tonight our school-based volunteer coordinator, Adrian Hopkins. And we're going to tag team a little. When she said years and years, I was just sitting and counting 31 years ago this month. I was here as a second grade parent from Lowell School. And it wasn't about the senior companion program, the foster grandparent program, but my children did have foster grandparents at Lowell at that time. It was a highlight of their lives. So rather than talk with you about statistics and numbers this year, those are in your packet. You can certainly see those. You can see the children that we worked with. You can see the progress that they made. So we had some other ideas we wanted to do tonight. One of the things I might not ever have told you about is Senior Corps program is a sister program of AmeriCorps. Not everybody hears about us. We're the little sister. And we are locally sponsored by Missoula Aging Services. We have the same overarching goal to get civic engagement and people out into their communities using their skills and talents. And our overarching oversight agency is the Corporation for National and Community Service, who has Congress over the top of them. And if you wanted to contact your congressional folks and tell them it's important for us to remain funded, you sure can. But the Senior Corps volunteers are folks over 55, and they use their skills and talents to support nearly 100 agencies in Missoula County, including Missoula County Public Schools. Last year at Missoula County Public Schools, there were 40 foster grandparent and RSVP tutors who served just over 17,000 hours, working one-on-one or in small groups with 262 students to improve their reading and math skills. There we go. So, Missoula Aging Services mission is there for you. You need the microphone. So, we have some photos. For the second time in 7 years, the corporation has chosen Missoula as the place to come to do their media, to prepare for their new media releases for the upcoming year. And both times, Missoula County Public Schools stepped up and allowed us to pretend to have school in the middle of July. The marketing folks don't get that one. So we were at Paxson School and had the best of times, hadn't? And this one, while it was posed at Paxson School, I need to let you know that this is my husband who tutors at Hawthorne School, and Hawthorne School is by far your flagship. We have more than 20 or 15 foster grandparents and RSVP tutors serving at Hawthorne School alone. So we really want to shout out for those folks.
And I'd like to shout out to Jonna Ryan, our amazing foster grandparent at Paxson School. She serves 40-hour weeks at Paxson School as a foster grandparent, but she still saw a need there. The children were falling behind in the summer. So in 2013, she started their summer reading program, and they estimate that over the summer, these kids can make up 6 months of growth in reading. And in your packets, you can see, well, and specifically Jonna Ryan students, 83% of them achieved grade level last year, and 100% of them improved in the area of concern. It's an amazing program she's made, and when the National Senior Corps were here for the filming of their PSA, they were so impressed by her program, they wanted to feature it on their social media. So the national level. On the state level, Montana AARP awarded Jonna the 2017 Community Service Award for Intergenerational Service. The local level, one of our media outlets featured the Paxson School Summer Reading Program and Jonna Ryan's award. And on the school level, what one parent of a Paxson Summer Reading student had to say, Jonna has helped my kids learn, find a sense of belonging, and know that there is always someone at their school that is there to listen. Jonna is always supporting the kids that need it most, right when they need it most. Watching her work the halls of Paxson is inspiring. Here she is. So, an amazing volunteer, an amazing program. In accordance with Missoula County Public Schools media and policies, every parent whose face you see has signed directly with us and with the Corporation of National Community Service a release. These were the children we gathered together. We just thought you might enjoy seeing the film crew at work. They brought in a massive truck, unloaded more equipment than I've ever seen. They did filming all over town, but as I said, a great majority of it was at Paxson. We built the Paxson Playground this year. One of our programs, the RSVP program, provides volunteers in many, many areas, and building playgrounds is what we do nationally. So as you can see, the photographer's down on his hands and knees there. So it's kind of fun to be doing all of this. And so you've heard me for many years, you've heard us for many years talk about how our grandparents help the kids learn to count. And I just wanted to show you that to the kids, the grandparents really do count. Thank you. We look forward to our continued partnership.
Thank you so much. And this is information only, but Superintendent May, you had a comment?
I would. You know, the interest of Missoula Aging Services obviously is to engage seniors in the community, but I can't emphasize enough the value that we as a school district get from the service they perform. And obviously, Colleen highlighted it well. We met a few weeks ago and went over some of the statistics, and it is truly impressive the number of hours
But what's more impressive is the level of commitment on the part of these seniors who serve our students. And I think the benefit of the intergenerational experience for our students is really tremendous. So thank you for your dedication and your continued service to the community.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Any other comments or any questions for Colleen? Trustee McDonald?
I just want to say I think that the program is awesome. I know my grandmother was my very best friend, and when I lost her, that was one of the biggest losses ever. But I also want to kind of add with something to kind of toot Jonna's little horn for her. I worked with her years and years and years ago at Community Hospital, and she is just an awesome, awesome person, and we have a real jewel in her.
Thank you. We'll share that with her. Yes.
Any other comments or questions? Any public comment, even though this is information only? Seeing none, well, thank you for being here. We really appreciate looking forward to this every year. And it's kind of nice to see faces that go along with names and action photos, including the playground build. That was really great, so thank you. No, thank you for letting us know. And so now we move on to 6C, which are announcements from Superintendent Thane.
Thank you. I think the most important announcement is that last week we conducted within the district the first round of parent-teacher conferences. And it takes a tremendous effort on the part of staff in order to prepare for and to meet with the parents that they serve. But I think what's most important, again, is that they are in a position to begin a collaboration, to really partner in a meaningful way with the parents to advance the outcomes for all students that we serve. So I know it's a tremendous amount of time and energy that's devoted to parent-teacher conferences, but I think it pays huge dividends. So kudos to the staff for all their efforts in that regard. I was able to be in a number of buildings, and there's just a certain amount of excitement that occurs, obviously, when you bring the community and specifically the parents into the building. So again, my appreciation for all that effort. It's hard to believe next week is Thanksgiving week, so we have a little bit of a strange schedule. We'll be in session Monday and Tuesday. We will not be in session Wednesday through Friday of next week. And the administration offices will be open on Wednesday, but of course closed Thursday and Friday for the Thanksgiving observation. We will have our regular Board of Trustees meeting November 28th. And again on December 12th. However, we will cancel our second December meeting. It would naturally fall on December 26th. And our tradition has been not to meet during the week between the Christmas and New Year's holidays. We, I think, also are keenly aware that there's a special session occurring in Helena. And we'll be interested to see what happens legislatively. As you know, we experienced a significant change with regard to funding when the legislature was actually in session. Then when we failed to meet revenue thresholds in June, we experienced yet another reduction at the state level, that to the tune of about $364,000. And so it's with a bit of bated breath that we wait to see what the outcomes of this legislative session might be. The proposal that's been submitted early on, however, is for the Office of Public Instruction's reduction to be in the form of an $11.6 million block grant that would not be funded. The impact on us would not be general fund impact, which I think is probably the best case scenario we could hope for out of such a reduction. It would, however, impact the transportation fund and our building reserve funds and might compel us as a district to consider drawing on our district reserves in order to make up potential shortfall. So we're anxious to see just exactly what transpires as the legislature continues to meet, and we'll certainly continue to update you. I would ask you certainly to stay tuned, and if there's an opportunity to contact with local legislators, to do so. I was in contact with two of them last week prior to the session, and they're certainly very strong advocates for the education community and Missoula County Public Schools, and I appreciate the difficult task they face, but also recognize the potential significant impacts it could have on our district. So we appreciate everyone's efforts. We'll keep you posted, and hopefully Stability will be the key word as we move forward.
Thank you. Next, we move on to D, which are announcements from trustees. Do any trustees have any announcements? Trustee McDonald?
Hi. Okay, I just wanted to give some updated numbers of the Finance Academy at Hellgate High School. I'm pretty excited about it. This year, we have 274 students that have enrolled in the Finance Academy classes and the business classes. 167 of those students are taking Finance Academy classes. Steve, also known as Mr. K, he has 122 potential students that are filling out commitment forms because now, thanks to his full-time position, he's able to bring in more students. Beth has 89 that are looking at and signing the commitment forms. We currently have 39 Finance Academy students. Our goal was to have 29 at this time. 11 of them have completed the job shadowing and qualify for the internship program. 14 are third-year academy students. We had two business partners, Horizon Credit Union and the Collection Bureau, donate $660 to sponsoring scholarships for three dual credit courses for two of our Finance Academy students. And the Finance Academy students participated in the nationwide stock market game. They took 7th place out of 170 schools, and they were in the top 3 until one of their last transactions kind of knocked them down to 7th. So I just wanted to kind of share the numbers with you, and we're just really, really excited that it's moving forward and we have the participation that we have.
Thank you. Any other trustee announcements? Seeing none, then we move on to 7, which is old business concerning personnel negotiations and policy. And so as an overview, 7A 1, 2, and 3 are all recommended policy changes to be made because of the Every Student Succeeds Act, and at the request or at the suggestion by board council, get our policies in line with changed language in the Every Student Succeed Act. The board has seen these 3 policies at the first reading. They were sent out for public comment. There was no public comment of any kind on the policies, and so now the recommendation is that the trustees approve these 3 modifications to the policies identified. So 7A1 is to approve the second reading of the revision to Board Policy 3110, which is entrance, placement, and transfer. And so I don't know, Superintendent Thane, since we've discussed them previously, if there's anything more to discuss, or if anyone has any questions before I entertain a motion. Seeing none, then is there a motion to approve the revision of Board Policy 3110? Moved by Trustee Wake. Is there a second? Seconded by Trustee McDonald. Is there any board discussion? Seeing none, is there any public comment? Seeing none, then all trustees in favor of approving the revision to Board Policy 3110, entrance, placement, and transfer, please indicate by raising your hand. And that is unanimous as to all trustees present, Lenora, sorry. And now we move on to 2, which is similarly to approve the second reading of the revision to Board Policy 3212, which is education of homeless children and youth. And again, there was public comment, it was set out for public comment, and there was none. So unless there are any questions, is there a motion to approve the revision to Board Policy 3212? Moved by Trustee Wake, seconded by Trustee Kendall. Any board discussion? Seeing none, any public comment? Okay.
When we first had the first reading Julie Robitaille, Executive Regional Director. The board requested information regarding the number of homeless students served in Missoula County Public Schools, and I did not have that information at my fingertips when we first
had the reading of this policy at the Sealy Lake Board meeting, so I wanted to follow up with that, that in 2015-16, we had just over 1,000 students that were identified and served. The same last year, 1,022, and so far this year, 2017-18 school year, we're at nearly 600. So of course, we accumulate that number over the course of the entire year. So I just wanted to report that, and that our funding is based on the previous year's number.
Thank you.
And I would just add one additional comment. If you look at basically all three of these policies, the intent is to remove hurdles that would be considered barriers for families that might be in transition or students that would qualify as homeless. So it's requirements such as providing birth certificate and immunization records. You're given a period of time in order to do that. And our intent is to immediately enroll and to assist and support those families rather than create policy barriers that would prohibit them from immediate enrollment in school.
Thanks. Any other public comment? Seeing none, then all trustees in favor of the motion to approve the revision of Board Policy 3212, which is education of homeless children and youth, please indicate by raising your hand. And that is unanimous as to all trustees present. Then we move on to number 3, which is to approve the second reading of Board Policy 3214, which is education of children in foster care. It follows a similar track as the other two revisions to board policies. If there's a question? Okay, so no questions, so moved by trustee Wake to approve the revision to board policy 3214. Is there a second? Second by trustee Duggar. Is there any board discussion? Seeing none, then any public comment? Seeing none, then all trustees in favor of approving the modification. Actually, it looks like this is a new one, so it's no revision. I stand corrected. So adopting the board policy 3214, education of children in foster care, please indicate by raising your hand. And that is unanimous as to all board trustees present. Then we move on to 8A, 1 and 2 for under teaching and learning, which are two application or grant applications. And so the first one is found on page 36. And Mrs. Allen, it looks like you're going to answer questions. And if there's anything that you need to add in terms of the descriptor, which is the Rattlesnake PTA wants to provide funds to purchase an air quality sensor.
This is ingenuity for the community in the Rattlesnake. For those of you who live in the Rattlesnake, there's at least a community feeling that the weather is different in the Rattlesnake than it is in other parts of the community. So there's an interest in ensuring some clear knowledge about how much smoke there is in the air, for example. So the PTA has collaborated with the city of Missoula to earn a grant, and it will purchase some equipment to judge air quality. And it will actually be the PTA's equipment that we will use collaboratively with them. And the results of the air quality will be posted on the PTA website. We are having some conversation about how we'll coordinate our efforts between where we usually get our air quality measures and the Rattlesnake if they are different. But we haven't had an opportunity to have a conflict, so until then, we're working together.
Are there any questions for Mrs. Allen before I entertain a motion? Seeing none, then is there a motion that we approve the grant application to allow the Rattlesnake PTA to purchase an air quality sensor? Moved by trustee Wake. Is there a seconded? Seconded by trustee Kendall. Is there any board discussion? Trustee Decker?
I wonder if the air quality is sometimes different up at Chief Charlo, too. And we should consider their PTA take this idea on as well.
Well, that's a community opportunity. We do know, if you've known principals in the community, it's below zero at different schools at different times, and immediately above zero at different schools at different times. So I'm sure air quality has that too.
Trustee Lorenz?
I guess I'll interject my pet project, talk to Mark about this. One thing I think we need, and maybe we need no idle zones at our schools, because you might find what you're collecting is the particulate emissions from your buses. So it's real important that we really look at no idle zone, and particularly at Rattlesnake. In fact, we could, if the buses are idling, turn them off and see the difference at Rattlesnake.
Any other board discussion? Any public comment? See none, then all those in favor of the motion to approve the grant application that has been described, please indicate by raising your hand. And that's unanimous as to all trustees present. And now we move on to Mrs. Robitaille, where Lewis and Clark Family Resource Center wants to provide some funding for the annual holiday giving tree.
This is the same grant that they have applied for and been awarded for the past 3 or 4 years. The Town Pump Charitable Foundation has been very generous in helping the Lewis and Clark Family Resource Center support Lewis and Clark families from everything from basic needs to holiday gifts as well.
Any questions for Mrs. Robitaille? Seeing none, actually we're going to, I think, have to move back just procedurally. Who, was it Trustee Wake who made the motion as to 8A grant? Right. I just noticed that it's an elementary only item, so if we're going to scoot back, and so because it's an elementary action item, I'm going to do a do-over. So is there a motion from an elementary trustee to approve the grant application summary for the Rattlesnake School? Okay, moved by Trustee McDonald and seconded by Trustee Decker. And so now all elementary trustees in favor of approving the grant application, please indicate by raising your hand. And that is unanimous as to all elementary trustees present. And now we move on to number 2, which is the same. It is an elementary action item. And are there any questions for Mrs. Robitaille? I didn't think there were any. So is there a motion from an elementary trustee to approve the grant application? Moved by Trustee Lorenzen and seconded by Trustee McDonald. Is there any discussion? Any public comment? Seeing none, then all elementary trustees in favor of approving the grant application for Lewis and Clark, please indicate by raising your hand. And Trustee Breakstead's hand goes down because he's, we all got tricked after that first one. And so that is unanimous as to all elementary trustees, I believe. And so now we move on to 8A3, which is an information-only item tonight, as is indicated in the background information, in order to hear from the public at the meeting, as well as receive public comment over the course of the next 2 weeks before our next meeting. This is a discussion concerning the naming of the replacement school for Cold Springs. And so Superintendent Thane, if you want, it looks like it would be you explaining to us the process that was used in terms of the recommended choices that are being presented to the school board.
Thank you. So beginning September 28th, the school solicited input from the students and the school community with regard to potential names for the school that will replace Cold Springs. You'll recall from previous conversation that Cold Springs is a geographic term that references the area where the current school exists. And given the historic nature of that name use, as well as the existing buildings that will likely continue to be referred to as Cold Springs, we felt it appropriate to have a new and distinctly different name for the new facility. About 40 names were submitted prior to the October 9th deadline, and those names were vetted by the Education Innovation team, the committee at the school, and narrowed to 5 choices. Those 5 choices were then put out in survey form for all students to rank 1 to 5, with 1 being their top choice. And each household then was given 1 additional ballot, and again asked to rank them 1 to 5. You'll see in the board packet on page 3 that we have the results tabulated 2 ways. The first being just the raw number of times each name was listed as the top choice in the survey. And the second was a calculated scoring method where we gave 5 points for each ranking of number 1, 4 points for each ranking of number 2, etc. And you'll see that in both of those measures, a single name emerged as the top choice, that being Jeanette Rankin Elementary School. And I know that we're going to hear some public comments, so I won't go into background at this point in time, but rather allow the additional details about the potential name to come from some students that are in attendance tonight. So with that, as Chair Holland indicated, we would hope that the board would look at these results, would take public comment over the next 2 weeks, and at the November 28th meeting that there would be a motion to name the new school. Again, the survey is non-binding on behalf of the trustees. You do have the latitude under policy to name the school anything you may choose to name it. But you've got some significant input, and we certainly appreciate the efforts of the Cold Springs community in that regard. I might also mention, as was brought forth at the last board meeting, I've made an attempt to reach out multiple times to a relative that we've identified of Jeanette Rankin's, just to essentially get some permission to consider use of that name on the facility. And I have not yet been successful, but I'll persevere and will hopefully be able to report on that contact by the November 28th meeting.
Thanks. And so even though this is information only, we'll adhere to the process we use. So first is board discussion or board comments. Any board comments at this time? Seeing none, then we would love to hear public comment. And as we indicated, if you can pull the microphone up or down, depending on where you fit in terms of how tall you are. And if you can say your first and last name, and if your name has an unusual spelling, can you spell either your first or last name? And then tell us what you think.
Okay. Hi, my name is Mary Jager, and I'm a 5th grader at Cold Springs Elementary School. I would like to thank Missoula County Public Schools Board of Trustees for this opportunity to speak in favor of renaming Cold Springs to Jeanette Rankin Elementary School. This is important to me because I believe that everybody should be equal. Jeanette Rankin fought for the rights of women to be equal to men. One of her proudest accomplishments was being able to vote in Congress for all women having the right to vote. Jeanette Rankin is a powerful example of someone who fought for the rights of all people. I feel that if this school is named after Jeanette Rankin, that youth like me will understand that everyone, no matter their gender, race, economic background, or sexual orientation, deserve equal rights. The timing of this is amazing because this year is the 100-year anniversary of Jeanette Rankin being the first woman elected to the U.S. Congress. Also, currently, there are no schools in Montana named after Jeanette Rankin, and of all of the schools in Missoula, only Emma Dickinson Learning Center and maybe the Willard Alternative High School are named after women. It would be so important to our community to name this school Jeanette Rankin Elementary School. Thank you for your time tonight.
Hi, I'm Ella Seaver. I'm from Cold Springs Elementary and I'm in the 5th grade. Thank you, Missoula County Public Schools Board of Trustees, for allowing us to come today. I believe that anyone deserves equal rights in life, and Jeanette Rankin is a role model for people across the world. She fought through hardships and battles for the right for millions of women and taught youth that they can believe for justice for all. Jeanette Rankin voted against things that she believed was wrong for the well-being of the United States. Even when times were tough and no one was on her side, she still stuck with what she believed. That is why we sincerely hope that the new Cold Springs Elementary is named after Jeanette Rankin. Thank you for your time.
Oh, sorry. Any other public comment? Seeing none, then we want to thank you all, and as is indicated, we would love to hear from more public. We will actually be taking action on this item at the next regularly scheduled school board meeting. So, thank you very much for being here. And now we'll move on to item B1, which is a Smart Schools 2020 information update, and Superintendent Thane says I can move straight on to you, Burley, so.
Yeah, thanks. Talk a little bit about the projects we're kind of going on right now. We have Russell, which if you guys have driven by, you've seen some heavy equipment and some dirt and some holes. So we're starting to see some foundations go in and hopefully some concrete very soon. So it's nice to see progress finally at Russell. We have received part of the permitting process. We've received the footings, foundations, and shell package permit. We're still waiting on the second half permit, which will allow us to be permitted for the entire project. Willard is in the same boat. We are currently looking at doing some concrete over there and still waiting on the second half of that permit, but we're going, lots of work to do over there still yet, so nothing's holding us up as far as permitting at this point in time, although we're always eager to get permits. We have Hellgate, which continues to be very positive with phase one. Still on track to open up the FACS or fax room for in the third floor, which is going to be located in the old library, which is currently existing library, and then our front entryway will also be finished around Christmas time as well. So looking forward to that. Cold Springs continues to make great progress, still reaching critical milestones, and continue to be on track out there. So it won't be Cold Springs for long, I guess, but we're very happy with the progress that's going on so far. Update real quick, not really bond related, but I want to update the board on Seeley Lake water testing. I'm sure you're all aware of. We have 3 locations in the main building that came back with some lead testing. We've completed this last September. We kind of to back up, completed our second round of lead testing through our district. So we did half last year, half this year. So we have all of our facilities tested now, and these 3 locations came back with high content of lead. We hired a company, Northern Industrial Hygiene. They came in and retested to validate the results, and then we also internally looked at the faucets that were in those locations and did some research on them, and they all have lead containing build, I guess, for the faucets. We've since replaced those faucets. We replaced 5 total, 2 in the boys' restroom, 2 in the girls' restroom, and then 1 in the staff lounge. And we retested on Monday, and we should have those results back on Thursday, and then we'll kind of build a game plan from there if we need to, and maybe look at a filtration system or something like that if we need to go that route as well. So the staff up there, the community up there, the kids have been great. We've got them some water coolers up there. Most of the areas in question are all hand wash sinks. They're not drinking fountains. All drinking fountains came back with good numbers. But still, we've taken every precaution and provided them with some water up there as well from water cooler tanks. I give kudos to that staff and that community for asking lots of questions and understanding the process and knowing we're taking it very seriously and trying to get this fixed as quickly as possible. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Burley? Seeing none, this was information only, but any public comment? Seeing none, then thanks for that update on many fronts. Burley, there's so much going on, it's hard to keep up. Then we move on to approve a budget amendment proclamation resolution 2018-6E. This is an elementary action item, and the recommendation is that the elementary trustees approve the attached resolution 2018-6E and petition for a budget amendment in the amount of $134,764. So Pat, if you want to walk us through what this is about.
Thank you. So this represents a budget amendment in the general fund for an unanticipated enrollment increase. We had a similar budget amendment a couple years ago in the high school. As you all know, when we adopt our budgets, we do so using the enrollment figures for the prior year. So this reflects the actual enrollment numbers, A and B count in October, this October, and when we compare to the October count used for the budgets that we established, the enrollment numbers are quite a bit higher, over 100 students higher. That allows us to, for you as a board to petition the superintendent of public instruction to approve a budget amendment. We would be authorized for an amendment of over $500,000. We're recommending that we limit it to the amount of direct state aid, which is about $134,000. So the funds that we would be receiving for this budget amendment would come entirely from the state in support of this year's budget, 2017. And this is on the elementary side. And so in addition to the resolution, the elementary trustees would sign the petition that's attached at page 49 that we'd sent to the superintendent. Upon approval of the petition, we would post the notice of the proclamation, the actual resolution, and once that's been posted, then we would come back to the board with the final resolution for the budget amendment.
Any questions for Pat? Trustee Lorenzen?
Do you know if our enrollment increase was across the grades, or was it primarily a big kindergarten class?
Middle school,
If you look at page 38 in the board packet, it actually details each school and the enrollment increases. What we're talking about here is an enrollment increase of approximately 103 students K-8. And where we saw our biggest growth actually was at middle school. We're up 71 students. So we had a relatively large fifth grade class transition to sixth grade across the district, and a much smaller eighth grade class that exited. If you look at the middle school totals, we have a sixth grade class of 618 students, a seventh grade class of only 522 students, and an eighth grade class of 542 students. If you look on page 37 at the K-5 numbers, with the exception of the current first grade, all classes in our K-5 exceed the 600 student threshold. So we looked extensively at the work of the demographer before we ran the bond issues, and the projections that were made have held pretty steady. In terms of total numbers in the district, we're actually slightly ahead of what the demographer predicted for 17-18, although the distribution school to school has some variance. But if this trend continues, we'll continue to see these enrollment increases. I would indicate also that the high school enrollment is up. We were up 28 students in grades 9 through 12. That would have qualified us for a small budget amendment, but it would not have resulted in any direct state aid. So we did not bring that budget amendment forward.
Any other questions for either Superintendent Thane or Pat? Seeing none, then is there a motion from an elementary trustee to approve the attached resolution 2018-6E and the petition for a budget amendment in the amount of $134,764 with the understanding we'll see it back again? Moved by trustee Lorenzen. Is there a second? It's seconded by trustee Kendall. Is there any board discussion? Is there any public comment? Seeing none, then all elementaries in favor of the motion to approve the attached resolution 2018-6E and the petition for the budget amendment in the stated amount, please indicate by raising your hand. And that's unanimous as to all elementary trustees present. Thank you, Pat, for that. And now we move on to 3, which is to approve a transportation route mileage change. We see these on a somewhat regular basis, it seems like, over the course of the school year. So Burley, do you want to explain what's going on with this particular request? The recommendation is that we approve the bus route mileage change for the 2017-2018 school year.
Yeah, thanks. So on page 51, you can kind of see a spreadsheet with a list of our routes and the miles driven for that particular bus, that particular route. This is something we do twice a year. We do that usually October, November, and then again in January, February. And what this does, it allows us to submit the most accurate mileage to the state for the most accurate reimbursement we can get for for state local reimbursements for transportation. So it's really a benefit to the district to make sure we do this twice a year to stay as accurate as we can, because routes shift sometimes daily. And so we just want to make sure that the accuracy is there.
Any questions for Burley before I entertain a motion? Seeing none, then is there a motion to approve the bus route mileage changes as indicated on page 51 in our packet for the 2017-2018 school year? Moved by trustee Wake. Is there a second? It's seconded by trustee Lorenzen. Sorry, trustee Digger, I didn't see it in time. And so is there any board discussion concerning the motion? Seeing none, is there any public comment on this motion? Seeing none, then all trustees in favor of approving the bus route mileage change for the 2017-2018 school year, please indicate by raising your hand. And that's unanimous as to all trustees present. Thanks, Burley. And we now get into a whole lot of things about improvements in the schools and changes in the schools. So the first one on item number 4 is to authorize the engagement of an architect for Hawthorne Elementary, and the recommendation is Dowling Studio Architects be hired to assist in the programming, planning, design, construction, administration for the renovation and construction of the Hawthorne Elementary School, subject to a successful negotiation for a contract. And so Burley, if you wanted, I think most of us at this point on the board are familiar with the fairly significantly detailed vetting process that happens before these recommendations are made, but is there anything you'd like to point out?
The only thing I'll point out is I'd just like to thank the committee because of the time-consuming efforts, and that was Superintendent Thane, Pat McHugh, Karen Allen, and the principal, Becky Sorensen. So it's a great project, and we're excited to work with DSA. Bill Grant is here tonight from DSA, so we appreciate him being here as well.
Any questions for Burley before I entertain a motion? Seeing none, then this is an elementary action item. So is there a motion by an elementary trustee to authorize the engagement of Dowling Studios Architects concerning the renovation and construction of Hawthorne Elementary School? Moved by trustee McDonald and seconded by trustee Lorenzen. Is there any board discussion? Seeing none, is there any public comment? Seeing none, then all elementary trustees in favor of authorizing the engagement of Dowling Studio Architects to assist in the renovations and constructions that will take place at Hawthorne Elementary School, please indicate by raising your hand. And that is unanimous as to elementary trustees present. Then again, we move, and thank you for being here, and thank you for taking the time to sit through the meeting. We really appreciate having a face connected with the project and look forward to working with you. So now we move on to doing something similar at Meadow Hill Middle School, which is to determine whether or not to authorize the engagement of A&E Architects concerning the renovation and construction of Meadow Hill School, subject to successful negotiations of a contract. So Burley, once again, is there anything to point out on this one, other than to, as you always are so gracious to do, acknowledge the work of the committee?
Yes, thanks. So I'd like to thank Superintendent Thane, Pat McHugh, Julie Robitaille, and Principal Christina Stevens for their efforts in this process. And Chris Martison from A&E is here tonight as well. And I'm happy to say that their first EIT meeting will be this Thursday. So their staff is ready to go.
Okay. Any questions for Burley on this action item? Seeing none, then is there a motion from an elementary trustee to authorize the engagement of A&E Architects to assist in all that's going to go on concerning the renovation and construction of Meadow Hill School, subject to successful negotiations of a contract? Is there a motion? Moved by trustee Lorenzen and seconded by trustee McDonald. Is there any board discussion? Well, happy to keep the architects of the state of Montana employed. Any public comment on this? Seeing none, then all elementary trustees in favor of authorizing the engagement of A&E Architects concerning the renovation and construction of Meadow Hill School, please indicate by raising your hand. And that is unanimous as to elementary trustees present. And thank you both for being here and again putting a face to the name of the project. Now we move on to 6, which is to award the bid of asbestos abatement at Hellgate High School in the attic. And so it looks like there were 3 bids received, and Burley, do you want to walk us through? And obviously, it's kind of notable that one of them is much significantly lower than the others, so.
Yeah, so this project was this is one of those unforeseen circumstances when you start construction and you realize there's some asbestos that you didn't anticipate. So this was kind of an emergency response, so to speak. We found this asbestos. We have to get HVAC work done at Hellgate, and so we need to get this abated right away. So we put it out for bid, and these are the numbers that came back. And there is a little bit of a discrepancy there, and the reason is how they're delivering the project. 2 of the companies had the thought process to bring in a great big, basically truck vacuum to kind of go up and over and into the attic and vacuum it all out. And the firm, Bateman Contracts Montana, they're doing it a similar way, but maybe on a smaller scale, where they're actually going to vacuum it up into like a shed that's going to be located on top of the roof, instead of having a great big huge piece of equipment on the ground floor or at the ground level. They're actually vacuuming up into a smaller unit, into a shed, and bagging it there. So they just kind of the way they're delivering the project allowed them to kind of come in quite a bit lower, as you see. So we're confident. We've walked the project with the contractor, and we're confident in their methods. And the area in question we're looking at that this has to take place is that the oldest building site along Higgins Street, and then there's actually a section that goes off to the east as well that'll be abated. We anticipate very little disruption. It shouldn't be too much noise. Discussing it with the contractor today, the equipment's actually pretty quiet as it's being ran, so we don't anticipate too much inconvenience to the school while doing this process.
Thanks. Any questions before we entertain a motion?
How long does it take to do a project like that? In terms of days or weeks or whatever?
So they plan on beginning the 21st, and they'll be in there probably till about just before Christmas. So it's going to be just about a month worth of work. So it's pretty time consuming. And of course, we'll be doing air clearance tests and stuff like that too. So they have to make sure we monitor all that to keep everything safe. So it takes time.
So this wasn't something you anticipated in the initial budgeting, so where does that money come from?
Yeah, so it's coming out. It'll come out of the contingency. So every project has a contingency set up for it for circumstances just like this, and usually that contingency is in the 10% range. So it'll come out of the contingency.
I know that there was asbestos work done at Lowell as well, and it was my understanding that the entire property was kind of closed off and sealed off and so on. And so how is the scope or architecture of this project different so that kids and people can be on site and premises in class while this is going on?
Yeah, so this is there's not a demolition going on here, so we're not taking down an entire building, but it's all done through a containment process with a negative air. Basically, what they're doing is they're making that airtight. And when they set that all up, they're closing off all transfer grills, all cracks, seals, everything like that. And then they do tests. They do smoke tests and other stuff to make sure that they're not leaking somewhere else before they start work. So there's a lot of time. A lot of that process is setting that containment system up, as much as it is actually removing the asbestos. So they spend a lot of time doing that and making sure that it's all contained and through that negative air pressure. So, and then it gets exhausted through HEPA filters as it leaves the containment area. So it's bringing in fresh air. They're bringing fresh air in, and then sucking it, taking it back out through HEPA filters. And so it's a pretty cool process, pretty neat process to see set up. But it's definitely monitored through strict, EPA, DEQ type stuff. So it shouldn't be harmful at all with the containment set up properly and sealed off.
Other questions for Burley? Seeing none, then is there a motion to award the contract to Abatement Contractors of Montana with the asbestos abatement work that needs to be done in the attic space at Hellgate High School in the amount stated, $172,950? Moved by trustee Wake, seconded by trustee Bregstad. Is there any board discussion? Seeing none, is there any public comment? Seeing none, then all trustees in favor of awarding the contract to Abatement Contractors of Montana as the low bidder, please indicate by raising your hand. And that's unanimous as to all trustees present. And then we move on to general contractor services for the Egg Center. And the recommendation is to solicit bids for the general contractor services that will be associated with the renovation, remodel, and expansion of the Egg Center. So is there something of a particular nature to point out, other than we have been putting out a lot of things to bid these days?
Yeah, and I'm very excited to get this one out because we've waited on a lot of permitting and it's time to go. So we have a little bit more design left to do before we get it out, put out for bid, but we are hopeful that we can get this thing out before Christmas time and get it complete for the start of school next August.
Any questions for Burley? Trustee Lorenzen?
Will this one be a GCCM, and will there be a committee on this one?
So we will do a scoring rubric on it, but it won't be a GCCM. We're not using the alternative project delivery. It's you have to meet certain criteria, complex project, budgetary, and we kind of looked at it working with Holtang and internal conversations, and we didn't feel like it met the criteria to do the alternative delivery project. So we went out and decided to do a design bid build on it.
Any other questions? Seeing no other questions, then is there a motion to grant permission to the district to solicit bids for the general contractor services associated with the remodel, renovation, and expansion of the Egg Center? Moved by trustee Wake, seconded by trustee Bregstad. Is there any board discussion? Seeing none, any public comment? Seeing none, then all trustees in favor of granting permission to solicit the bids for the general contractor services, please indicate by raising your hand. And that is unanimous as to all trustees present. Then we move on to asbestos abatement at Washington Middle School. So this is an elementary action item. And so really this sounds like it's putting out to bid because you anticipate that there will be the need for asbestos abatement at the middle school. Is that correct?
Yeah, so these projects have all been, what we do is we take the scope of work, the design for these projects, and we have those areas assessed for what areas will be doing demolition in, if we'll be removing asbestos pipe insulation for our HVAC work and that kind of thing. And then we create that scope of work and we put that out for bid. We're doing this, these three now so that we can potentially get some work done over Christmas in these locations. I know Russell for sure will be that way, but we want to have the opportunity to kind of go out over long weekends or spring break, Christmas break, and get as much done as we can before the summer. That way we can we don't have to sit and we can shave some of that time off come summertime. So it's just kind of get us ahead of the game a little bit.
Any questions for Burley? Seeing none, then is there a motion from an elementary trustee to grant permission for the district to solicit bids for asbestos abatement services associated with the renovation, et cetera, at Washington Middle School? Moved by trustee McDonald. Is there a second? Seconded by trustee Kendall. Is there any board discussion? Seeing none, is there any public comment? Seeing none, then all elementary trustees in favor of granting permission to solicit bids for asbestos abatement at Washington Middle School, please indicate by raising your hand. And that's unanimous as the elementary trustees present. And number 9 looks like it's exactly the same thing. Anything of note for this item as opposed to the last?
No, it's the exact same.
Okay, look pretty the same. So any questions for Burley? Trustee.
Thought of one in the meantime. So my question is,
We're putting this out now so that they can possibly do some work during vacations and things, when children aren't on premises, obviously. But the reason for wanting to do the work during the vacations is so that we can get a jump on things and not have to do that work right when the busiest part gets started in the summer. But this is just to reassure anybody who might wonder. Obviously, the project will go forward as if there are children in every space in the building where there are going to be children, because these things sometimes take longer than we think, right?
Oh, absolutely. The same rules apply for whether there's kids in around or no kids or anything like that. So they still set up containments. It's all through negative air pressure, and it's the same rules apply, same laws apply. So, like for Russell, for instance, we'll be actually demoing exterior walls and floor and the floor tile in 3 classrooms that the North Addition's coming off of over Christmas break, and then in the spring break, we're going to be looking at doing where the main office area is now. So we'll be looking at abating all that, and it's all floor tile mainly.
Any other questions for Burley? Seeing none, then is there a motion from an elementary trustee to grant permission to the district to solicit bids for the asbestos abatement services associated with what's going to be going on at Russell Elementary School? Moved by trustee Decker, seconded by trustee McDonald. Is there any board discussion? Seeing none. Any public comment? Seeing none, then all elementary trustees in favor of granting permission to solicit bids in connection with Russell Elementary School and asbestos abatement, please indicate by raising your hand. And that's unanimous as to elementary trustees. Then we move on to number 10, and I just have a question for either Superintendent Thane or Burley or perhaps Megan. It's listed as an elementary action item, but have we transferred the property yet or not?
No, the property is still owned by the elementary
That's what I
district, so it is, the
Yeah.
existing building and property are listed as elementary. So good catch, it is an
Okay.
elementary action item.
Okay, I figured that's why, but I couldn't remember where we were in the process yet with that. So it looks like this is not any different than what we were just discussing under the last 2 items. Any questions for Burley? Trustee Decker?
Yeah, why are we doing this one now when that building is actually being all the way demolished, when nobody's going to be in it next year?
Yeah, so this was just to get it out there now, and we'll have the scope of work because it's the entire facility, so we'll have to abate the entire building. It gives us some time to get out there and start planning and get that company on board and start looking at what the full scope of work will be. So it doesn't necessarily mean this will necessarily go out next month or in January, but it gives us that ability to put the scope of work together and get it out a little quicker.
The council to my left has suggested that we actually change this to a secondary item. The reason being the source of funding that will be involved is secondary bond funding. So although the transfer of the property hasn't occurred yet, funding for asbestos abatement at Willard at the time it occurs will actually come from secondary bond funds.
Well, let me ask this, should we wait, since it's currently elementary property, could we take action as a secondary board? Megan, any thoughts on this?
I don't think it matters the ownership of the property. I think it is more important about the source of funding. And so, because you're using secondary bond funds, I think it should be a secondary item. And I don't see any sort of notice issue as far as who's voting with regard to the agenda. So I don't think you'll have any issue taking action this evening on that item as a secondary board.
Okay, and I'm assuming that we can always revisit the matter and revote if for any reason there's something that complicates it, but to keep things moving forward, based on that information, then we'll consider this an elementary and secondary action item, and so the recommendation is to grant the district permission to solicit bids for asbestos abatement services associated with the renovation, remodel, and expansion at Willard Alternative School, which is really Willard Alternative Program, and the building, that's the school. So is there such a motion by any trustee? Moved by trustee Duggar. Is there a second? By trustee Bragstad. Any board discussion? So I'm understanding, so this is actually when you tear down a building, you still have to do asbestos abatement because you can't just knock it down and let asbestos float, fly into the air, so, okay. Any other board comment, based on my comment? Any public comment? Seeing none, then all trustees in favor of granting permission to solicit bids for asbestos abatement associated with the remodel of the Willard Building, please indicate by raising your hand. And that's unanimous as to all trustees present, although trustee Wake has stepped out of the room, I think to use the restroom, so she's not currently present. Then we move on to C, which is personnel negotiations and policy, and the first under I is the personnel report. We typically see these reports pretty much every week, and so it's found on page 53 and pages following that. Is there anything of particular to note?
No, it's a regular report, rather small, actually.
And we don't take any comment on particular individuals listed in the personnel report, but is there a motion to approve the personnel report that's attached to the agenda? Moved by trustee Kendall and seconded by trustee Duggar, and I kind of jumped the gun, and so we don't take any comments from board members or the public. Okay, there's a mini drone in the room. But we do allow for general board comments or general public comments. Is there any board comments? Sure. Sure.
Really general question, sorry, really quick. I know that we had last year approved wage increases to a number of positions because we reported to be sort of harder to fill. And I'm wondering if at this point in the year, this really small personnel report reflects that that went well?
I think that, I hope that's a reflection of that. I mean, we were very successful at the outset of the year. We talked earlier about the job fairs and the other things we've done, and we've been very aggressive with recruitment this year. I mean, with Hatton's help, we literally just posted some stuff online and have been able to recruit more subs and others. So we've been very successful and just modified our practice.
I just have one question. On page 57, the title at the top of the page is High School Certified Personnel Report. And under the first section, it's talking about Washington and Porter. And I just wondered if that might be in the wrong place. It's going to be a K-12 position.
Actually,
Oh,
they're
it could be a
listed twice,
K-12.
both elementary and secondary, because the position they're moving to is a K-12 position.
Oh, okay, so it's a kind of a transfer from district to district.
Right.
Okay,
And
thanks.
it's not unusual sometimes to see people both on certified and classified reports. I mean, because elementary rather, and secondary reports, because sometimes they'll have two different positions.
Thanks. I didn't catch that it was happening in both places. Thanks so much. Any other questions? And do we have a seconded motion yet? We do, okay. So, any other board comment? Any public comment? All those then in favor of approving the items on the provided personnel report, please indicate by raising your hand. And that's unanimous as to all trustees present. Then C2 is to approve elementary class size reduction resolution 2018-5 and secondary class size reduction resolution 2018-5S. And so, Dave, if you want to walk us through what these resolutions are addressing?
You bet. In 2002, Congress designed Title IIA funds that could be used to raise student achievement, and under that act, they allowed 4 different uses of that money, the Title IIA money. One was professional development, another was recruitment of highly qualified teachers, another was retention of teachers, and the 4th category, which is the resolutions before you, is the reduction of class sizes. On recommendation of OPI, they've asked that we have the board do a resolution stating that we would be using our Title IIA funds for class size reduction. So that gives notice, and then the second things that the resolutions do is allow us to retain the teachers versus letting them go and then rehiring them the following year. So this adoption and use of the Title IIA funds this way allows us to continue with the teachers in the place.
Thanks. Any questions? Trustee Lorenz?
I remember from a few weeks ago that most of our classes are at the legally allowed size in the state. So how does the class reduction money, how is it used? Does it keep us from going over that?
Yes, it allows us, we're using the money to supplement what we're doing. It's not supplanting general fund dollars, but it does. We use that to hire teachers. In the elementary, we have two resolutions. The elementary resolution, the money is used primarily, well, for about 6 FTE, and in the high school, 3.5 FTE, about 4. Oh, K2, I'm sorry, yeah, we use it at the lower grades. So,
No, I would just follow up. At the time this was introduced, we had class sizes of 26 in our primary grades, and we, along with the rest of the state of Montana, moved to class sizes of 20. And that was part of the history of using the class size reduction grant money to support that effort.
Any other questions for Dave? I have one question. OPI recommended that this year. Did something shift this
we've been doing
year?
it every year.
we just
OPI recommended that we have resolutions notifying the use of our Title IIA funds for which of those designated purposes, right, and so.
Okay, so this might be something, or we have seen every year, and I've
Yep.
just forgotten. Okay. Any other questions? Then the recommendation is that the trustees approve the two attached resolutions, 2018-5E and 2018-5S. I think since they're dealing with separate resolutions, we'll do 2018-5E first, which would require an elementary trustee to make the motion and second it and vote on it. So is there a motion to approve resolution 2018-5E? Moved by trustee Lorenzen and seconded by trustee Decker. Any board discussion concerning that resolution? Seeing none, any public comment on that resolution? Seeing none, all elementary trustees in favor of approving resolution 2018-5E, please indicate by raising your hand. And that is all elementary trustees present. And then similarly, is there a motion to approve resolution 2018-5S? Moved by trustee Duggar. Is there a second? Second by trustee Kendall. Is there any board discussion? Any public comment? Seeing none, all trustees in favor of approving resolution 2018-5S, please indicate by raising your hand. And that's unanimous as to all trustees present. Then we reach the, I guess, the semi-penultimate, there's got to be a word for that, agenda item topic, which is to approve removal of procedure 2410P from the policy manual. And Superintendent Thane, the administration caught an interesting thing, I think, in recent.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. At the last meeting, you'll recall, we approved a slight modification of graduation requirements on behalf of a student who had accelerated and took computer science classes as a middle school student at Sentinel High School. In researching the policy and procedure in that regard, we discovered that not only was this procedure statement still contained in the policy manual, but it also contained an error. It gave authority to the superintendent to approve that deviation when state statute says that that's a function of the Board of Trustees. So we will tonight move to remove 2410P from the policy manual, and then at the time we insert it in the procedure manual, we will make the appropriate correction to reference that the Board of Trustees would approve those deviation from graduation requirements.
Any questions for Superintendent Thane? Trustee Lorenzen?
So I know we're removing this and moving it, but it lists that prior to registration in high school, each student will receive a copy of the current graduation requirements. Does that imply then that they will always be subject to those requirements, that theirs won't change?
We actually have a policy that states that any changes to graduation requirements become effective with the freshman class that enters and at the time they actually graduate. So we're not going to change anything immediately for anybody that's already in process.
Any other questions? See none, then is there a motion to approve the deletion of the procedures found at Board Policy 2410P, since our policy should be policy and not procedures, and should be consistent with the law? Moved by trustee Wake. Is there a second? Seconded by trustee Lorenzen. Is there any board discussion? Well, other than it's always interesting when something comes up on an individual basis that we discover that there's some things that need to be modified to comply with the law. So Any other board comment? Seeing none, any public comment? Seeing none, then all trustees in favor of approving the deletion of the procedures for Board Policy 2410P, please indicate by raising your hand. And that's unanimous as to all trustees present. Then we move on to item number 9, which is public comment on non-agenda items for anyone who wasn't able to come at the beginning of the meeting. We hold public comment at the end of the meetings as well as a courtesy to the public. Any public comment on non-agenda items?
Hi, Melanie Charlson, President, Missoula Education Association. I haven't seen you in a while. I just realized I haven't been here since the September meeting, I think. So I better say a few words. A couple of weeks back, first part of November, actually 2 weeks from tomorrow, Superintendent Thane and Dr. Guest, myself, and Jenny Malloy traveled to Chicago, where we attended our second of this year's NEA Network Improvement Community Meeting. It was 2 days of incredibly successful meetings and sharing collaboration with the districts from the 3 from Wisconsin and the 1 from Oregon. We had action items to present during that time, and conducted more learnings, and now have another action period. Tomorrow evening we'll be hosting our first new hire cohort gathering, and we're looking forward to continuing our support of them. So just very brief update on that. It was a really successful time, and we did receive our full funding of the grant, so we have a full MOU, so those dollars are fully coming through for the year, so that's very exciting. So thank you.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, then we are adjourned. Thank you all for your attendance.